Hello and welcome to Inside Food City Center, where Tennessee basketball just fell to Kentucky 78-73. Kind of felt like Tennessee was behind a step the entire game. Got it close at the end and just couldn't get a three-point shot to fall, as much as it looked like Kentucky almost tried to will them to getting back into that game. Noah, instant thoughts from Tennessee's loss?
Yeah, I mean, it's a complete opposite of what Tennessee did Saturday night. I mean, you walked away from that Auburn game, if you're Tennessee, feeling pretty positive as far as losses go. Rick Barnes said it himself. He felt, because of the way they played, they were able to. Auburn's also a good three-point shooting team, a good scoring team. Tennessee goes on the road. You used the term last week. They pulled them into the mud and it worked. Not able to do that tonight. Had a lot of defensive lapses Kentucky was able to take advantage of, which, obviously, again, one of the best scoring teams in the SEC, one of the best in the country. Tennessee knew that coming in. With the way Kentucky was shooting tonight, Tennessee was going. You kind of knew early Tennessee was going to have to try and match that. Kentucky gave them a lot of room by design. 45 attempted three-pointers, which we just learned second most in school history, and Tennessee hits only 11 of those. They're never. And that's a big reason why they're never able to kind of come back after falling behind early in that second half. Just never able to kind of get Kentucky into that shootout that they were trying to get them into, I guess. But like you mentioned, those last few minutes, Kentucky kind of, I think, had like one field goal in the last 5 minutes or something, and Tennessee not able to take advantage of that because they weren't shooting well enough. So it was just one of those games. Didn't shoot well against Auburn, but played defense good enough to win that game. Tonight did not do either very well.
Yeah, the shots were there. They got the looks, especially down the stretch, and it was just shot after shot that weren't going in. Mark Pope, Kentucky's coach, talked a little bit about how a lot of those shots were guys that they were okay with shooting, and it was spread out. Like, you got the Jordan Gainey looks, you got the Chaslanier looks, and I'm sure that's not necessarily who Mark Pope was referencing. Even though those guys didn't have the most efficient nights, Chaslanier, he's going to finish with 15 points, 5 for 14, shooting 3 for 10 from 3. Jordan Gainey, he's going to finish 2 for 9 from the field, 2 for 8 from 3 for 6 points. So it's not like either of them shot the lights out of the gym, but they're kind of have the track record. But you would think it's probably more so Igor Milicic and Darlington Dubar who took some shots at the end of the game. Well, Rick Barnes said, maybe those guys should have shot the ball a little bit more because they were the ones that kind of had things going tonight. Igor Milicic, I thought it was really positive to see him get back to playing well in over 30 minutes, 19 points, and he's efficient, 6 for 10 from the field, 4 from 8 from 3. And like we just talked about, a lot of those misses were right there at down the stretch. So he was a big piece for Tennessee all night. And then Darlington Dubar, he's going to finish 3 for 9, kind of another guy that his efficiency trailed off for 7 points, but he was everywhere on both ends of the floor. How positive was it to get both of those guys going for Tennessee as this gauntlet of an SEC stretch continues?
Yeah, it was huge. I mean, obviously Igor's a guy that has started the whole season, and we saw in non-conference play what his ceiling could be. Shot the ball really well. That has been kind of missing in SEC play. And you can say the same about Darlington Dubar, which obviously he missed part of the early part of the season, kind of had to get in the groove there off the bench. But in that Auburn game, those two guys that struggled in the minutes that they had. So it was good tonight to get those guys in. And if you're Tennessee, you hope that carries over. And Igor talked about it back there. It felt good to see shots go in. He would have felt better with a win, of course, but I think that is a positive development if you're taking one away from this game, that he was able to kind of add that element, because you got to figure, and this Tennessee offense, it might just be what it is. Here we are. It's turning February soon, Saturday, but still a lot of time to get better as well. And we've seen, just a couple nights ago or a week ago, Chaslanier had 23 points against Mississippi State, a good Mississippi State team. So it's still there, I think. You may still see performances like that, but it's going to be paramount that it's not just him or one guy each night. You got to have like Igor Milicic have a night like tonight. You're going to have to find some other ways to score and kind of put that together in one game instead of one guy having a good game here and there and spreading them out. So, but I think that helps a lot. If you're taking anything positive away from this game, it's that he kind of found his shot tonight, and hopefully that carries over. If you're Tennessee, hopefully it carries over against Florida.
I think you hit on it at the end. Since conference play, has Tennessee really had a game that all 7 to 9 guys that are playing have performed well, or even just, like I said, like 7 of the 9, 6 of the 9?
Yeah.
It feels like it's like 2 or 3 guys that are showing up on any given game. Tonight it was Igor Milicic and it was Darlington Dubar. Against Auburn, it was Zakai Ziegler and Jemai Mashak. And you kind of go down the list of SEC play in these losses. I mean, Florida felt like maybe none of them played well, but it feels like even in some of the wins, that's been part of the issue, is you're getting play from this guy, and this guy, and the rest of them aren't making much of an impact on maybe either end of the floor. And you compare that to what it looked like in out-of-conference play when this team was number one in the country, and they were the last team to suffer a loss. And it was because you go to Madison Square Garden and you play Miami, who's not the best, but it felt like everyone that saw the floor played really well in that game. You talk about even going on the road at Illinois, maybe it wasn't Chad Lanier's best game, but you had a guy like Jordan Gainey step up in a big way, and the supporting cast around him stepped up in a big way, so that way they are able to survive that trip. It feels like Tennessee's going to need to get that consistency. They're going to need to get it from multiple guys, and we just haven't seen that yet at this point. And that's part of the reason that Tennessee's in a little bit of a skid right now. Rick Barnes made sure to note, like, hey, Tennessee's only lost 4 games. They're still good. He said that he thinks he has a really good team still. But to you, how concerning is this offense when we get to March? Because you look at the recipe for success in March Madness, you need a good defense, but you also need an offense you can rely on. And you kind of have to have both of those things. All the winners, all the Final Four teams, they're those top 20 offense and defensive teams. Right now, Tennessee's got the defense to do it, but that offense feels like an offense that's going to go cold in a round of 32 Sweet 16 game. You catch a team that's hot, and all of a sudden you're sitting at home and your season's over.
Yeah, it reminds me a little bit of a few years ago, obviously before Dalton Connect got here, but that Sweet 16 team was plagued by that against FAU. Got into that game and just could not keep up and keep pace with them with the shooting, because they just didn't have anybody to turn to. And obviously Zakai was out. That was huge missing him. But I mean, it is concerning that they're not able to kind of match what they've done defensively. I mean, the way they played against Auburn, I mean, because that was Auburn, because that was on the road, you lose that game.
Sure.
I mean, but most of the time, you play like that defensively, you're going to win a lot of basketball games, and that's a good formula for Tennessee. The problem is, like you just mentioned, they get in a game like this, where the other team is shooting 50% from 3. They just don't have that, at least not right now. Maybe they find it again. Maybe, like we just talked about, you start stringing some performances together from some 2 or 3 guys instead of 1 guy. Maybe that changes, but I think that's the biggest thing right now. They've proven they can win a slugfest type game against really anybody in the country, but not every game is going to play that way for you. You're going to have teams that are just going to shoot the lights out against you, and I think Tennessee right now has to seriously look at that and try to find an answer, or try to string something together on the offensive end, find some consistency there, because like you mentioned, March, I mean, if you get in a game like that, your season's over at that point.
And I think it's important to note, like, the ceiling is still Final Four, first ever Final Four, national champion, all of that great stuff, but there's going to have to be more consistency on the offensive end, and that's kind of the theme right now. It doesn't take an expert to see that, but it's kind of just the apparent issue with this team. They just cannot find a consistent offense, and it's not going to get easier from here either. You look at that schedule, and they've got like 7 more ranked teams, and you got some of those on the road. You got the return trip from Florida coming to here. Vanderbilt's a ranked team now who's got to come back, and those are 2 revenge games. Now you got to go on the road and get revenge against Kentucky, so some familiarity there, but you're throwing teams like Missouri, who's ranked, Ole Miss, who's ranked. You still haven't played Alabama. It's not going to get any easier for Tennessee this year, so we'll have to see how that plays out. To follow every step of the way, make sure you head over to VolReport.com. We'll have coverage not only on the men's basketball team, but football as spring practice quickly approaches. We have women's basketball coverage as Kim Caldwell and the Lady Vols look to try to kind of get over the hump in a big game. They've been so close against so many of these top teams, and they're just knocking on the door of getting over that hump, so we'll follow along with them. And then baseball season, of course, right around the corner. Really everything Tennessee athletics, we have you covered over at VolReport.com. Links to everything you use in the description. Thank you for watching.